Welcome back to your A Cup Lacer audio training. Keep your pace steady on your route, watch your footing, and let us dive deep into one of the most vital modules for your success next Tuesday. We are mastering module ACC RD 2.3, Analyzing Purpose. In our previous lessons, we talked about what a passage says and who is saying it. Today, we are asking the most important question of all: why? Why did the author sit down at a keyboard, spend hours of their life writing these specific words, and choose to publish them? Every piece of writing on the A Cup Lacer has a goal. Nothing is there by accident. To get a top score, you have to look past the information and see the intention. Students often confuse main idea with purpose, but they are fundamentally different. The main idea is the what. It is the summary of the content. The purpose is the why. It is the author's ultimate objective. For example, if you read a passage about the dangers of sugar, the main idea might be that high sugar consumption leads to heart disease. But the purpose is to persuade the reader to change their diet. Do you see the difference? One is a statement of fact. The other is a call to action or a specific goal. On the A Cup Lacer, you will see questions that ask, the primary purpose of the passage is to, or the author wrote the second paragraph primarily in order to. When you see these, you must immediately start thinking in terms of verbs. In fact, almost every correct answer for a purpose question will begin with a strong verb. Words like to inform, to persuade, to criticize, to analyze, to illustrate, or to refute. Let us break down the big three categories of purpose that you will encounter on the exam. And then we will look at the more subtle, academic purposes that the College Board loves to use for their hardest questions. The first category is to inform. This is the most straightforward purpose. The author's goal is simply to provide facts, data, or history. You will see this in science passages or historical accounts. The tone is usually neutral and objective. The author isn't trying to change your mind, they are just trying to fill it with information. If you see a passage full of dates, statistics, and balanced descriptions, the purpose is likely to inform or to explain. The second category is to persuade. Here, the author has an agenda. They want you to believe something, do something, or feel something. They will use loaded words, they will emphasize certain facts while ignoring others, and they will often speak directly to the reader's emotions or sense of logic. If you feel like the author is taking a side or trying to sell you on an idea, the purpose is to persuade or to advocate. The third common category is to entertain. On the A Cup Lacer, this usually shows up in fiction or personal memoirs. The goal is to tell a story, evoke an emotion, or share a human experience. While these passages might contain information or a message, their primary why is the narrative itself. However, since you are aiming for a top score, we need to talk about the high-level verbs that appear in the most difficult questions. These are the academic purposes. One of these is to refute. This means the author's primary reason for writing is to prove that another person's idea is wrong. If a passage starts by saying, many scientists believe X, and then the rest of the text explains why X is a mistake, the purpose is to refute a common belief. Another is to illustrate. Sometimes a whole paragraph exists just to give a specific example of a broader point. If the first paragraph says that climate change is affecting bird migrations, and the second paragraph tells a detailed story about one specific species of crane in Siberia, the purpose of that second paragraph is to illustrate the broader claim made in the first paragraph. Another critical one is to analyze. This is when an author breaks a complex topic into smaller parts to see how they work together. They aren't necessarily taking a side, they are just exploring the how of a situation. Now, let us talk about the traps. The College Board is very good at creating distractor answers that look right but are fundamentally wrong. The first trap is the true statement trap. This is the most common mistake students make. The test will give you an answer choice that is a 100% true fact from the passage. You will recognize it, you will remember reading it, and you will want to click it. But just because a statement is true doesn't mean it is the purpose. Imagine a passage that argues for more funding for space exploration. In the middle of the text, the author mentions that Mars is often called the red planet. The test will ask for the purpose of the passage. A trap answer will say, to inform the reader about the color of Mars. Is it true that the author mentioned the color of Mars? Yes, but was that the why for the whole passage? No. It was just a tiny detail. You must ensure that the purpose you choose covers the entire text, not just one sentence. The second trap is the overstated intensity trap. This is a trap of tone. If an author is gently suggesting that a new law might have some flaws, the trap answer will say the purpose is to viciously attack the government's policy. The word attack is too strong. The author was critiquing or evaluating, not attacking. You must match the intensity of the verb in your answer to the intensity of the author's tone in the text. The third trap is the wrong level trap. This is when the test asks for the purpose of a specific paragraph, but the answer choice gives you the purpose of the entire passage, or vice versa. You must be a laser-focused detective. If the question asks about paragraph 3, you must ignore the rest of the passage and ask yourself, if I deleted only this paragraph, what would be missing? The answer to that is the purpose of that paragraph. So, how do you find the right answer on Tuesday? You are going to use the executive summary technique. As you finish reading a passage, I want you to imagine that you are the author's boss. You walk into their office, put the paper on their desk, and ask, "What are you trying to accomplish with this?" Answer that question in your own words before you look at the choices. Your answer should sound like this: they are trying to show how two different things are similar, or they are trying to get people to stop littering. Then, look at the multiple choice options. Find the one that starts with the verb that matches your thought. If your thought was, they want people to stop littering, look for an answer that starts with to discourage, to advocate, or to persuade. Another tip for your audio learning: pay close attention to the first and last sentences of each paragraph. In academic writing, which is what the accuplacer uses, the purpose is often hidden in the topic sentence at the beginning or the concluding sentence at the end. The middle of the paragraph is usually just the stuff, the evidence. But the beginning and the end are where the why lives. Let's do a quick mental practice. Imagine a passage about a new high-speed rail system. Paragraph 1 describes how the trains work and how fast they go. Paragraph 2 compares the cost of the rail system to the cost of building more highways. Paragraph 3 argues that the rail system will reduce carbon emissions and help the environment. What is the purpose of the whole passage? It is to persuade the reader that the rail system is a beneficial project. What is the purpose of paragraph 2? It is to provide a financial context or to compare economic alternatives. What is the purpose of paragraph 3? It is to highlight the environmental advantages of the project. Do you see how the purpose shifts depending on how much of the text you are looking at? You must be precise. To summarize this deep dive into Module ACC RD 2.3, first, remember that purpose is the why, not the what. Second, always look for the power verb at the start of the answer choice. Third, beware of the true statement trap. Don't pick a fact when they are asking for a goal. Fourth, match the intensity of the verb to the author's tone. And finally, use the executive summary technique to predict the purpose before the test tries to trick you. You are doing amazing work. You are thinking at a college level while you are out there on the streets. This kind of active listening is a superpower. You aren't just hearing words, you are building a mental framework for success. That concludes our comprehensive breakdown of analyzing purpose. When you are ready to move into the heavy-duty logic of the test, our next target is Module ACC RD 2.4, Analyzing Arguments. Just say the word next whenever you are ready to proceed.